Welcome to today's Explainer. You know, we hear a ton about high school dropout rates and soaring college tuition, but today we're going to rewind. We're looking at the very beginning of the educational journey to hand out a comprehensive report card on the American early childhood education landscape. We are going to break down the multi-billion-dollar systems designed to shape young minds, figure out what states are actually doing right, and explore what the data truly tells us about early intervention. So let's just dive right in.
I want you to stop and think about this question for a second. What literal building blocks actually construct a child's mind before they ever step foot in a kindergarten classroom? We tend to take these early years for granted, right? But the cognitive groundwork laid during this specific time basically dictates a child's readiness for the rest of their entire educational life. Well, it starts incredibly simple with phonemic awareness. We're talking about mastering the actual mechanics of sound, connecting letters to those sounds, and then dissecting word structures. And these really aren't just cute preschool activities. They are absolutely crucial mechanisms that wire the brain for reading, comprehension, and critical thinking down the road. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The preschool foundation. 2. Inside Head Start. 3. State pre-K progress. And 4. Does early education work? Okay, Section 1. The preschool foundation. Building the brain. When you look at the core USA preschool learning essentials, it's really a progressive journey. Kids don't just memorize things. They move from basic letter recognition to complex phonetic dissection. These specific cognitive building blocks are exactly what wire the brain to meet the pretty strict academic expectations waiting for them in elementary school. Moving on to Section 2, Inside Head Start, a national intervention. Now, Head Start is literally the oldest and largest program of its kind in the U.S. Get this, it was actually launched way back in 1965 by President Lyndon B. Johnson as just an 8-week summer catch-up program. But it spread like wildfire over the decades. In 1969, it moved over to the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. Then the 1981 Head Start Act expanded it even further. And by 1994, Early Head Start was established to capture those supercritical developmental years from birth to age 3. But here's the absolute crucial point you got to remember. Head Start is a comprehensive intervention. That means it goes way beyond just the ABCs and phonemics. It's designed to foster stable family relationships, boast physical and emotional well-being, and provide really necessary resources. We're talking dental checkups, meals, and health screenings for low-income kids and their families. It's a completely holistic approach to early development. So, who actually gets to use this program? It's largely based on the 2023 federal poverty level figures. Generally speaking, families have to earn less than 100% of these numbers to qualify. To put that into perspective, a family of 4 would need a maximum income of $30,000 or less to be eligible for the whole shebang of comprehensive services. And as you might guess, supporting all those families requires a massive, massive financial commitment. The 2023 federal budget for Head Start was a staggering $12 billion. That immense funding currently serves about 820,000 enrolled children all across the country, making it just a monumental pillar of American social infrastructure. Let's zoom in on Section 3, State Pre-K Progress, by the numbers. Right now, national enrollment in state-funded preschools has hit a record high. We're looking at nearly 1.8 million children currently enrolled in these programs. This really highlights a huge growing recognition at the state level of just how vital early education is. And states are definitely putting their money where their mouth is to match this enrollment. States spent $14.4 billion directly on preschool, and when you lump in state, local, and federal support, total funding hits $17.7 billion. That averages out to an inflation-adjusted $8,124 spent on every single child. But it's not all perfectly smooth sailing. Huge gaps remain. Despite this record funding, access is heavily skewed by age. 37% of all 4-year-olds are enrolled in state-funded preschool, but when you look at 3-year-olds, that number plummets to just 9%. Access is definitely not universal yet. Plus, the actual quality of these programs is kind of all over the map depending on where you live. Looking at NEIER's 10 quality standards benchmarks, there's vast inequality. Only 6 states met all 10 benchmarks. 8 states met 9. Meanwhile, a whopping 20 states met 5 or fewer of these quality standards. And get this, those 20 programs serve 46% of all the kids in state-funded preschool. But we definitely need to give a shout out to the rare 6 states that hit a perfect 10.
That's Alabama, Georgia, Hawaii, Michigan, Mississippi, and Rhode Island. Georgia is actually a really great example here. They became the newest state to enter this top-tier category by intentionally lowering their class sizes down to 20 and improving their teacher-to-child ratios.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4. Does early education work? The science of success.
This is where things get really fascinating. When you dive into the research, two completely competing narratives pop up. On one side, we have what researchers call the Head Start fade, focusing purely on short-term academic metrics. But on the other side, studies are pointing to massive long-term life gains in socioeconomic areas. So let's unpack both of these.
First up is the fade phenomenon. Objectively speaking, studies showed that those initial cognitive boosts kids get, the early letter sounds and phonemics, they often just kind of vanish as they go through early elementary school. Actually, a 2024 article in the journal Science found that by third grade, there was zero statistically significant edge in math or literacy for these students. Now, some researchers hypothesize this happens because these kids often move into lower-quality elementary schools that simply fail to reinforce those early gains. Also, in some cases, teachers reported that kids who got a Head Start slot displayed slightly more emotional symptoms later on.
But hold on, because you have to contrast that academic fade with the long-term socioeconomic data. It's a completely different picture. Former enrollees are significantly more likely to graduate high school and actually finish college. When they reach adulthood, they see increased employment, higher earnings, and a noticeably lower likelihood of being charged with a crime. The program also drives up employment and earnings for single mothers and fosters much better access to things like health insurance and dental care.
There's a really powerful quote from a 2021 study that sums this up perfectly. The authors wrote, "These estimates imply sizable, long-term returns to investments in means-tested public preschool programs." Basically, this suggests that even if standard test scores equalize by the third grade, the lifelong behavioral, economic, and societal returns of this early intervention are just enormous.
And we absolutely cannot forget about the parents, because the impact extends well beyond just the child. A survey out of California found that 99% of families said Head Start helped them improve their own parenting skills, things like responding to misbehavior and helping their kids learn at home. The program heavily supports the parents, which uplifts the entire family unit. So we're left with this incredibly complex picture, right? We have early academic gains that might fade away, but they are offset by profound lifelong economic and social benefits, all carrying a price tag in the tens of billions of dollars. I want to leave you with this to consider. How should society balance the upfront, multi-billion-dollar costs of these programs against the long-term structural investment in the future of our youth? It is absolutely a debate that will shape the next generation of American learners. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.